think, yeah, it started with the disappointment of the game against Basel, where I think we won 3-1 at Celtic Park, and should have hammered them that night. Didn't. We go over there, we lose. I think we lost 2 early goals over there, and then Sutton had the chance in the last minute. I just went by the post, and then who'd have thought? A number of months later, we're in the final. So that was the start of the journey, I suppose. The Blackburn game, I suppose, is the first one I remember. Has been something that, well, actually maybe we've a wee chance moving forward here. Disappointing game in Glasgow, even though we won the game in the soonest comments, and that kind of spurred the guys up. And then when Big Sutton scored the second goal, you thought, well, that's them taken care of. Next was Celta Vigo. I think we were jammy. I think we were really lucky against them. We did well at Parkhead. Took a 1-0 over there, I think, and then they pummeled us, absolutely pummeled us, and desperation stuff, but managed to get through. After that was it Stuttgart, was it? Yeah, Stuttgart. Just guessing. Stuttgart, yeah. Again, good game at Parkhead. I think Larsson missed that one. Maloney played. Was that the game Maloney played? Maybe not. 20 years ago, so long ago. Won that one over there. Scored an early goal. Looked good, and then started losing some goals. And it was all falling apart, and then just managed to kind of keep there. Then Liverpool, I think Liverpool, the first game again, I think Henrik came back from, I think his jaw, he'd smashed his jaw or something, came back, scored in the first 5 minutes, they score, go down there 1 each, I think, we're not going to beat them, and then Thompson scores just before half time, Hartson scores, and that's the point you think, we might have a wee chance here. And my own personal journey, I mean, I'm not somebody who goes to away days in Europe. I've only been to one away European game ever, and it was the Rapid Vienna game in Manchester back in the 80s, and it was a terrible game, horrible game to be at. So never been to see Celtic out with the UK, only that once in England. And after the game, I got a phone from my brother-in-law who lives in London. He says, I've got a chance of 6 tickets for £900 on eBay. Are you in? Aye, of course I'm in. And I asked him to was looking for anyone else. So at the time I used to go with a couple of mates. Now I go on my own, barely no mates. Phoned a couple of mates, one of them straight away, I'm in, other one's a teacher, and he said, I'd love to be in, but I think there's no way I can get time off. This is only the assumption you actually get to the final, because we've obviously got the semi-final to overcome as well. So goes back to Paul, my brother-in-law says, aye, 2 of us are in, great. So we send him £150 the next day on the basis that when you get to this, and even if we didn't get to the final, you could always flog your ticket for £50 or something. And I don't mean to sound like £150 was a lot of money. Well, it was a lot of money back then. It's worth more than it is then. It is now. So you think, I've got a ticket for the final if we get there, and then we play, and then you've got 3 teams left, and it was Porto, Boavista, Lazio, I think it was. And you're thinking, well, we don't want Porto, we don't want Lazio. We want Boavista. And I go on the podcast from time to time, and we've talked about the Champions League draw a few weeks ago, and people say, no, you want the big teams. No, you don't want the big teams. You want the wee teams. You always want the wee teams to get to a final. So we get Boavista, and you think, we've got a real chance here. First game at Celtic Park. Summer's night, which is quite surreal. European game, and the sun's shining. Didn't play well at all. From memory, we missed a lot of chances in the first half. Own goal at the start of the second half, Valharan, Larsson scores straight away, 1 each, and then he misses a penalty late on, and you're thinking, we've blown this, 1 each at home, away goal, and they're not a great team, Boavista. So second leg, you're watching it at telly, awful game, really awful game, and we're not going to score, don't make any chances, nothing's happening. And then Larsson pops up with that kind of miss-hit goal, and you're thinking, well, all I was thinking is that's has got a goal. We've got an away goal. So at the very least we're getting the extra time here. And then that last, whatever it was, 10 minutes or so, seemed like an eternity. And then the whistle goes, you're in the final. And you're thinking, no, I can't be right. We're in the final. Celtic's in the final. And it was only 20 minutes later I thought, I've got a ticket. I'm going to the final. This will be great. And then you start thinking, nah, I won't get a ticket. This guy's never going to keep his side of the bargain. So you go on eBay, and people are offering like £1,000. I want £1,000, £1,500 for a ticket. And you're thinking, this guy's never going to keep his side of the bargain. So, phones Paul again. I said, any news from the guy? So the guy says, fine. He'll definitely keep his side of the bargain. And you're thinking, that'll be right. Because if it was me or you're thinking, 10 times the amount of money? Don't know. So that wait, and obviously we're still in the league. good chance of winning the league. I think the game was brought forward against Dundee to the Wednesday before that to give us a free weekend. And I said to my mate before then, who's going to come with us, we'll just go anyway. If we get a ticket or not, we'll just go. I booked the Algarve for the weekend before it, so we're staying a week. And it was fairly cheap to book the Algarve, hired a car, the whole thing. So even if we don't get a ticket, we're definitely going to go. But those weeks leading up to that, I'm phoning Paul, any news? No yet, because UEFA didn't give the tickets out to people out in the ballot until pretty near the time of the game. So somewhere like 5 days before the game, get a phone call from Paul, I've got the tickets. And you're thinking, well, we're going. So he wasn't leaving till the day before the game. And he said, well, I can meet you up in Seville. And I'm thinking, no, I want the ticket. I want to hold the ticket. So we were flying out on the Saturday. He got the tickets on the Wednesday. And I said, post them, recorded delivery. And I was taking the next week off work. I took the Friday off as well, waiting for the postman to come. And the postman came and, I've got a ticket, I've got 2 tickets for the game. So, and you're thinking, I better not lose these. What am I going to do? So I think I kept them in my shoe for about a week. Basically, these are not going to leave. And obviously, it actually looked okay at the end of that week, but I'm not going to leave these things. So I phoned my mate, I've got the tickets, we're going. And then we flew out the Saturday, went to the Algarve, brilliant few days in the Algarve. Rangers played Hearts on Sunday, I think it was. We went through to the nearest town, saw Celtic fans again. And they were jammy, Rangers were jammy that day. Hearts could have beat them. If we wanted them, if they had dropped any points that day, we beat Kilmarnock in the last game and that was won the league, but they won 2-0. And then fast forward to the Tuesday, then we're going to drive through the Tuesday night before the game. And the mate who couldn't make it, his father-in-law and sister-in-law were going to Seville anyway, and they got a place to stay. So we arranged to meet them and we were going to stay with them. So we then go to the park with the Celtic fans are gathered, Charlie and the boys, etc. They're playing there, all the usual kind of Celtic songs. And it's quite surreal. And I'd brought on my camcorder, and these were the days, for you kids watching, before your phones could video things. So I had my camcorder with me and recorded some of the stuff in the park. And then after that kind of died down, wandered around the city for a while. It's bedlam. I mean, it's just absolutely bedlam. It's getting away everywhere. Get to bed about 2 or 3 in the morning and up pretty early next day into the city, and the city's just bedlam as well. And it's that kind of bit you can hardly wait for the game to start. You want the game to start. One of the most bizarre things that I've seen is a guy dresses Jimmy Savile. I know obviously he's a bad guy now, and he's got his tracksuit on, big heavy tracksuit on. He's got Jimmy Savile in here, and he's got all his medallions on him, and all these big cigars, and everyone's got their pictures taken. Now then. Just bonkers, you know. So, and loads of other things are happening. Guys are climbing fountains and all this kind of stuff. Nine o'clock kick-off, and it's in the 90s, and it's just boiling into the stadium. And the bit we're kind of like level with the penalty, edge of the penalty box, and just down from the sun, because like 10 rows up, the guys are just dying, just sweltering. Game starts. I at no point did I ever thought we were going to win it, because Porto had taken some really big scalps, some really good players. We were a good team. We were definitely a good team, but we're a kind of functional team, plus Henrik. And we were big and we were physical and we didn't get messed about, and we were good at set pieces. But as I said earlier, if we come up against a team like Celta Vigo, really skillful team, moved the ball about, we struggled badly. And I thought, not because I'm a pessimist, anything, but I just kind of thought, I don't think we're going to win this. But we're there. And I think when Porto were odds-on favourites, hot country, used to playing in that kind of environment. So we're at the game. First half was awful. Nothing happened at all. We didn't show up. The whole team didn't show up. Whether it was because it was too warm, it was a long, hard season, or maybe we were just playing a really good team, don't know. But they weren't that good either. Nothing much happened in that whole first half. And then we lose a daft goal, injury time in the first half. You're thinking, well, we're definitely going to lose it now. If we'd have held on, maybe, and getting at half time and nothing each, maybe it might have been different second half. we come out and then Henrik scores the goal that Henrik scores, and then the whole place. So the thing was that when Porto scores, and this is something that it doesn't happen nowadays, when it was the Old Firm and it is the Glasgow Derby, and it was half and half at either Celtic Park or Ibrox, when the other lot scored, you looked at it and half the stadium erupts, right? And you don't like it, obviously, but it's a special atmosphere when that happens, and they're all going mad. When Porto scored, looking to my left, the whole place is just going mad. And I'd think maybe the split of the ground would be 2/3 Celtic fans, 1/3 Porto fans, but they made a lot of noise. You just see them all going mad. And Daly scored again, he jumps over the barrier and all this kind of stuff. So the kind of the theatre of the whole thing is great. You know, we just lost a goal. That's great. We get to the second half, Henrik scores, and obviously 2/3 of the stadium's going mad. And you realise we're in a European final and we've scored a goal. Because that whole first half, you're thinking, what a journey we've been on to get to this point in time, and how disappointing we've been. And imagine losing this 1-0 to that goal. This is terrible. But Henrik scores, and the place goes mad, and you're thinking, you never know. And then we lose a daft goal within 10 minutes or something. Here we go again. And then Henrik scores again. And it's bizarre, it's bedlam. And then he ran towards a bit we're at. You're thinking, Henrik's coming towards us. And it's 2 each. And for the next 10 minutes, that's the only 10 minutes I thought, we could win this. We could really win this. And we looked really good. And then that kind of fitted out a wee bit. And it was like a nothing game. Nothing much kind of happened. And then you get to extra time. And I must admit, looking back, I mean, nearly 20 years ago, and the mind fades a wee bit. But on the footage, over the PA, he talks about the silver goal. And I tried to remember, did I know at the time about the silver goal? And again, for all you kids out there, the silver goal was an attempt to make extra time more exciting. And in Glasgow parlance, it's next goal's the winner, basically. But if you got to half time and extra time, next goal's no the winner, you need to play the full 30 minutes. It was a bizarre thing to introduce. But I'm pretty sure on the night, I don't recall that. I'm not thinking if we score, we've won the game. I'm just thinking we're playing extra time. So we played the first half of extra time, and when did they score? Was it the second half? They scored the goal, and Bobo gets sent off, and you think, that's it, finished. And then Maloney comes on, here's the chance for the free kick. How bizarre, you think, giving it to Sean Maloney, who at the time was only a really young guy. Final whistle, you've lost the game. Disappointment. I know Martin O'Neill talked about the tactics, and but hey ho, that's football. That's how these things work. If we were 3-2 up, I'm pretty sure we'd be wasting time. Whatever. It might not have been as blatantly obvious or as theatrical as they were, but we'd be doing the same thing. It was up to us to win the game. I thought the best team won over the course of the game. It wasn't a great game. We made a real fist of it. Henrik was just unbelievable. The other ones, I thought they were all pretty average. And even if we'd have got a decent performance, a better performance out of maybe 3 or 4 of them, it might have been different. Again, I had the camcorder, recorded the team going round the park, the disappointment at the end. Celtic fans stayed to the end. Why would they leave when you get to a European final? Why would you leave? So they stayed to the bitter end. We wandered back into the city, sense of disappointment, but chuffed we got there. Really, really chuffed that we got there. Who'd have thought, 9 years before, almost going bust. 3 years earlier, Inverness, Caledonia, Inverness, go ballistic thingy. We've got Raphael, shite, and Ian right and shite. And all of a sudden we're in this European final, optimistic moving forward. Must have stayed up to it 6-7 in the morning, just kind of chatting about the game. And I was quite, as I tend to be, quite philosophical about the whole thing. And I got a bit of grief about saying the better team won, because what about this, what about that? And the example I gave, to me, it seemed like a kind of Italy, West Germany type of game, where Italy were the kind of flair team and West Germany were kind of solid, no nonsense, physical. And when I watch football, I always want the flair team to win. I'd like Italy to be West. And in fact, you go back to Lisbon, and you think, when Celtic were the flair team in Lisbon, they went there, to play their football. The Italians, Inter Milan, were there to shut up shop, pretty negative thing. And for the good of football, I'm not saying for the good of football Porto won, but I think over the course of that game, I think they just kind of shaded it. They were odds-on favourites to win it. The achievement was getting there. If we'd have won it, it'd have been brilliant. It'd have been absolutely brilliant. But hey-ho, we got there. I'm really optimistic about the future moving forward. So that's my Seville story. think I'm not a big fan of the term best fans in the world, or best fans at all. I think fans do different things, and I'm a great admirer of fans who support teams who don't win anything, like Hibs. Sorry, the guys are here. Sorry. But if you're a Motherwell fan, a Partick Thistle fan, East Fife, you're never going to win anything. And these men, these women, they turn up week after week after week to see their teams. They're not the best fans in the world. I think it's easy when you support a successful team because you're winning games, and that's the acid test if you're a good fan or not. I was at a game the other night, a European game, where when Leipzig scored the second goal, loads of people left. Even though there was still time, maybe to get 2 goals back. Unlikely though it may be, that wouldn't happen at a league game. So I think the best fans in the world thing is a bit of a kind of a misnomer for me. In terms of Seville, to take 80,000-ish, which seems to be the kind of best estimate, across to, that distance into a foreign. I know that's been superseded by what happened in Manchester, but Manchester's just down the road. They've actually mobilised, if it was 80,000 people, to go there and to be so well behaved, because we're in that environment and it's boiling hot and people are drinking all day. Then there is the opportunity for things to go badly wrong, and I think they were pretty much very well self-policed, and they got this fair play award, which was an acknowledgement of what they've done. So I think as a body, as opposed to individual people, I think the fact that Celtic fans got that award was really, really good. Again, it just added to the fact they got to the final. We took loads of fans with us, and the behaviour was exemplary, and UEFA acknowledged that. And long may that continue. And I think in any European games, Celtic then tend to take 10, 20,000 fans across. And so far, touch wood, things have been okay, and long may that continue. I think it's important for the image of the club. I know that with the number of fines in the past few years, which have been a bit self-inflicted, but that's a whole different story, so I don't want to go there. So, but anyway, in terms of that, going to mobilise that many people to go over there, to win that award, that just added to that journey and the kind of satisfaction of what was achieved that season. And just the icing on the cake is if Henry had got the third goal and won the game 3-2. Head and shoulders, literally metaphorically, above everyone. His performance in Seville was just nothing short of outstanding. The first goal, how he managed to score the first goal, it takes an exceptional player to think, I can score for you, I can do it. And just how he managed to get up above the guy and bend it across and off the post. He was the talisman, he was the main man. If you took Henrik Larsson out of that team, out of that Martin O'Neill team, would they have been as good? No way, of course. Would they have been successful? Don't know. Because actually at the time, domestically, it was pretty much fine margins. And he was the guy that kind of pulled us up. And although there was times during that run he was missing, I think he was missing for... did they play in the Stuttgart game? I can't remember the home game against Stuttgart. For some reason, I don't know. Too long ago. But from a Larsson point of view, we will never see that level again. Certainly not for that length of time. We might get somebody coming through, a Jota or a Kyogo, who are exceptional, but they ain't going to stay for the length of time Larsson stayed. 7 years is a hell of a long time. And since those times, you have then learned that he had ample opportunities to leave, to go to bigger clubs. And to go to Barcelona kind of speaks for itself, and to play a major part in them winning the Champions League. I think every Celtic fan was actually really chuffed for Larsson. And maybe, again, I know he talks about that's the best years of his career, but maybe if you are Larsson, you're thinking, maybe I should have left earlier. Once you go to Barcelona and you sample Barcelona, I know he went to Man U for a few months as well. You might have thought, you know what, maybe I should have came here a bit sooner. Maybe I stayed there too long. He's never going to say that out loud, but I think, he obviously had a phenomenal time in his football career. But I actually think if I was Larsson, I'd be thinking, having, through the Barcelona experience and the Man U experience, maybe I should have left a wee bit earlier. And to have had him at Celtic Park for so long was brilliant. And it's hard to convey that to younger fans, just how good this guy was. Unbelievably good. Take any of the world-class players just now, he was that good, and we had him there, and he was there for 7 years. Brought a lot of success, and that was his game. and you must have been devastated that game. I know that he talks about he's never watched the game. I think most Celtic fans have not watched the game again. I've not watched it again. Seen the goals again, and because it's so long ago, you actually forget. Is that how they scored the goal? I didn't remember they did that. Well, that was a terrible goal to lose. And I think we were, maybe 2 or 3 players short. Lubo didn't play them. I don't know if Lubo had left by then. Lubo might have made a wee difference to that kind of game, because I just thought that kind of game, it needed a bit of guile and a wee bit of skill and something a bit different. And I just thought, successful team though we were, really good team that we were, good players that we were, the Suttons and the Hartsons and the Thompsons and the Lennons and the Lamberts, they weren't giving you that wee bit of flair, that wee moment of magic that can make the difference. And if you get Larsson up front, then he'll lead what you're going to do, basically. I thought we missed that. In the finals a one-man show from Larsson. And as I said earlier, if another 3 or 4 had even played to maybe half his level, we might just have sneaked it. But hey-ho, I mean, it was a kind of once-in-a-generation thing. Fans that have been brought up in winning in Lisbon and losing in Milan, would never have thought Celtic would ever get to a European final. So to get there was such an achievement. And it's just a shame the way it worked out in the end. I'll start with the goalkeeper. I mean, I think Rob Douglas was outstanding at Anfield. So if we had to get by them, I think Rob played his part in getting us there. I'm not so sure of the 3 goals we lost. You could say that was the goalkeeper's fault. So sticking to the goals, I'm not so sure. I think the goalkeeping position under Martin O'Neill was always the one that was a wee bit suspect. We didn't have what we said about Rob, he wasn't a world-class goalkeeper. So would have made a difference? I'm not so sure. The Hartson one's an interesting one, I think, because we maybe could have went a bit longer. We had Sutton there, we had Hartson there. Larsson scores 2 goals with his head. Who's to say that Hartson would have made a difference as well? Good physique the big man has. He'd have been an option off the bench, I think, when they maybe got to 2 each and the game started to die. Maybe we'd come off the bench there. What was the third one? Baldy getting sent off. Again, through the sands of time, I'm trying to remember, was it 2 each at that point? If it's still 2 each at that point, we could have hung on for extra time, I think, because the game kind of died. Nothing much was going to happen. And I was dreading penalties, just dreading penalties as a fan. You're thinking, finish this before we get there. Please, don't go to penalties. I thought it was unfortunate. From memory, I don't think the referee was that clever on the night. He seemed a wee bit pernickety, picking up bits and pieces. I thought the big chap was a bit unlucky, but it was a bit reckless at times in general, Baldy. So I suppose in the final, hey-ho. If he stays on, we might get to penalties. If Hartson's fit, he comes on for the last maybe 20-25 minutes. It might make a difference. I'm not so sure a better goalkeeper would have done much with the 3 goals we lost. I think they're bad defensive goals to lose. But again, you don't want to be too harsh. And this is a cup final. Must have been, maybe apart from Lambert, the kind of highlight of most of these guys' careers up to that point. You don't know what they're thinking. I mean, football's all 90% mental, psychological. You've made a cup final. What are you feeling on the day of the cup final? You look around the city, it's just green and whites. You're carrying their hopes and expectations. And we didn't perform. And it must be, if you're a Chris Sutton or a kind of Alan Thompson looking back at him thinking, you know what, that was my chance. I could have done so much better. I'm not blaming them. That's just football. The guys aren't robots. But I could have done a wee bit better, and it might have made a difference. So, bit kind of mixed views on that one, and those 3 points. Yeah, I think we thought we could kick on from that, and then Henrik leaves within a year, and then Martin O'Neill leaves the year after that, and we start to downsize. And I know a lot of fans didn't like Gordon Strachan, but I was a huge fan of Gordon Strachan. I think with the resources he had, he done an exceptional job domestically and in Europe. Takes the last 16, won 3 in a row. But we're certainly downsizing at that point. We're paying, from a Scottish perspective, we're paying huge wages to some of the guys, the Lennons, the Suttons and the Harts. And so we had to cut, because you have to be, whether fans like it or not, you have to watch the money, otherwise you might go bust. So you have to be careful with that. I think there's a lot wrong with the club at the time, but because we play in Scotland, we can get away with that. I think after the Gordon Strachan era, things started to dip, certainly in Europe. And what's good about Ange, I think, Ange has got a kind of plan. Ange's got a philosophy. And I don't think we've had managers, even Rodgers, who's got a certain style about them. I think we've always played safe in Europe. I suppose if you look back in the last 10 years, I think Barcelona's been the highlight, really, in terms of taking a scalp in Europe. But you look at the Barcelona game, how did we win the Barcelona game? With something like 17% possession or something. Forster played the game of his life. Just keep it solid, don't do it in daft. What happened the next game? We didn't replicate that because we play safe all the time. And that's the great thing about Ange, and he's getting slaughtered by certain people, is that he's got a way he wants to play. And if we keep at it, then we'll be good at that. I don't think we've had any sort of plan. I think we've muddled along, basically. The signings that we've had have been relatively poor. So from a strategic point of view, not great signings. In Europe, not great plans, I don't think. And even under Brendan Rodgers, he played a certain style and got horsed. And I think Ange has got... I'd like to think, under Ange, there's no reason... With this third competition, this Conference League, there is no reason why we couldn't get... And in fact, given our main rivals got to a Europa League final a few months ago, if they can get to one, there's no reason why we can't get to one either. And with the Conference League coming in, there's another one as well. So I'd like to think there's no reason why in the next 10 years we get to Europa, we get to Conference. The Champions League is way out of depth. Even if we've got a really good team and we're all on song, we'll get nowhere near the Champions League last 16, last 8, say. But I think the Europa, I think the Conference League, under a good manager, under a good board who know what they're doing, I think we suffered because of the last chief executive. I think under the new guy, he's letting Ange just, on you go, big chap. Who do you need? We'll get the guys you want. Take it from there. I think we've been terribly unlucky in this Champions League campaign so far. People say it's a sob story, but I think it's a bit more than a sob story. He's got a certain style. He wants them to play. And I know I'm going to the current, what's happening currently, but the game the other night against Leipzig, we could have packed the midfield, played for a draw. Do you learn anything from that? Does Matt O'Reilly become a better player if you do something like that? No, he doesn't. You let Matt O'Reilly try and run the show and you take the game to them. He'll get better. The next game we play, he'll be better. The team will be better. There's a shape, there's a form, there's a plan. And you might have to take a few bloody noses to get there, but you'll get there at some point. Whereas I just think playing a certain kind of game, you never learn anything, you never become any better. And if your signings aren't too clever to start off with, then I think the performances in Europe it's kind of obvious that's what's going to happen. Under Ange, I'm pretty optimistic moving forward. So hopefully, this is recorded within the next 10 years. I think a Conference League, a Europa League final is not beyond us. Once you get there, that's in the lap of the gods. So, yeah.
For your dreams,